Hello everybody, it's Global. I've got a special video for you here today in Kerbal Space Program showing off a custom suspension system called a Rocker-Bogie suspension system. It's been used on a lot of American Mars rovers and I've recreated it in Kerbal Space Program here for you. So I'm going to show off how it works, I'm going to show you the rover and I'm going to basically hopefully give you some inspiration to build your own. So let's get this rover set up. It's obviously based on the Perseverance and Curiosity rovers here. So it's got the little stalk here with the light and camera on. It's also got a bunch of science equipment. It's got some antennas. And of course it has a RTG in the back to generate power. And it's also got the Rocker-Bogie suspension system as used on the Mars rovers. So let's show it off. It's inactive at the moment. I've locked the suspension and I'm going to show you how it looks if I were to go down the side of the launch pad here with a stiff suspension. Now the only suspension acting on the craft at the moment are the wheel springs. They're set to a low limit though, so it shouldn't be too much of an impact. So if I gently bring it to the edge here and drive it down, you'll see it's quite a stiff ride. You can see the wheels lose contact with the ground there. And we make it down. Let's cut back to being up there and I'm going to unlock the suspension and we're going to see what the difference is. Alright, we're back at the top of the launch pad. Just drove it around and back up. I'm going to unlock the suspension now. So I've got two rotation servos here that I've locked for the demonstration. I'm going to now unlock them. So you're going to see the chassis drop. And the wheels are going to freak out a little bit. They don't particularly like it. Actually, they're behaving quite well. Usually they're a bit more, there you go, rumbly. It's just the KSP physics engine doesn't like the amount of physics going on to make this work. But I'm going to show you again what happens now if I drive down the same area with the Rocker-Bogie suspension. The primary benefit of this suspension is it keeps all wheels in contact with the ground at all times to the best of its ability. So if I drive down here, you'll see this time no wheels leave the surface. You can see each wheel keeps in contact with the ground. And it's a much smoother ride, I would say. Less, physically demanding on the equipment. Obviously, it was a bit bouncy, but it's better than having harsh, sudden movements. Now, I did say they keep in contact with the ground at all times, and I can demonstrate that here. If I was to drive at this ramp with the hard suspension, one of the sides would lift up. Now, I would like to demonstrate that, but I don't believe I can lock the suspension once I've unlocked it because it keeps vibrating. I'm going to give it a quick go, but no, I can't. But we know if I had a stiff suspension, I would drive up one side of the ramp and the left side here would lift off the ground and I'd only have traction on the right hand side. But with the Rocker-Bogie suspension, you'll see, there we go. One side lifts up and the other side stays in contact with the ground beneath it. Let's do that again and I'll try and pause the game so you can see what that looks like when it's paused. So I'm just going to turn around here and give it another go. Bring it back round. My driving skills are clearly impeccable. Now if I do this and then pause and F2, you can see the suspension has kept all wheels attached to the ground. And I think that's a pretty cool screenshot actually, so I'm going to get a screenshot. Bam. Pretty cool. Now how does this actually work? Well, let's go and demonstrate. So I'm going to drive over to an area where I think it will make a good demonstration and then we'll explain it. The main crux of it is you have three wheels here, as you can see. One front wheel here is attached to this bar, which is then attached to this servo, and the second two wheels are attached to a second bar here, which is then split up into this rotation servo. So the way to think of it is this wheel can move independently and these two wheels are linked, but they can move independently from the front wheel. Once you've set that up, so it's only two rotation servos in this sort of configuration, you need to add the differential, and I think this is the hardest bit for me to get right. I've just managed to get it working how I wanted it to. But essentially, you'll have the rotation servo in the middle here connected up to another rotation servo, and this is useful because it lets the connection here move freely, and it also allows it to pull on this bar or push on this bar. So if this bar comes forward, it's going to push the other bar back, and vice versa. We have another rotation servo and also a hinge here, which are also unpowered and free to move, and that just facilitates the free movement of the bar here, which also then of course facilitates the movement of the middle bar here, which is the important part. That's also on a rotation servo, which is free to move and unpowered. So the way to think of it is, as one wheel raises up, that forces the other wheel down, and that the little differential system here facilitates that. And all you really need to do is have a series of unpowered hinges and rotations in order to facilitate the differential working as intended, because you just want basically there to be as little rigidity here as possible, and that allows the complete free movement of these bars in order to push and pull the wheels up and down. So I've driven over here in order to give you a practical demonstration of the differential in action. I've locked the rotation servo here in the middle, so you can see the current angle of the bar, and just keep an eye on the bar because you'll see it move as I move up and down here. So if I approach this at an angle, the left wheel will raise, that forces the right wheel down with the differential, and the opposite occurs when I crest the hill. And as I come down, you can see the differential is making the opposite wheel act in the opposite way in order to keep it on the ground, because of the mechanical connection between the two sides, which I've created using the bars and the breaking ground robotics parts. And like I said, they're all completely unpowered. There is no powered elements here at all. They are turned off, free to move. They're not locked. They're just basically completely loose and ready to move at a moment's notice. So all the dampening's been switched off to 0. So yeah, they're basically free moving parts. And like I said, the main thing to understand here is how the differential works, like what it's actually doing, and which connections you need at each point in the directional changes here in order to facilitate the maximum free movement of each of these bars so that the differential can work as intended, because a rigid attachment would not work as there is not sufficient movement at each joint in order to facilitate the differential angling itself to compensate for the angle of the wheels. We're going to get to the limitations because there are a few limitations, of course. This being Kerbal Space Program, there are of course going to be some strange happenings. Of course, one of the primary problems you may run into is just Kraken attacks. The physics engine in this game is a bit weird sometimes, so constructing one of these rovers can cause problems, especially if you're like coming in and out of time warp. I believe mine works okay with time warp, but I'm about to find out, so I'm going to time warp. Yeah, it's fine. I can land this. I've landed it on Mars in a little sort of capsule, and that's okay. One of my recommendations would be you can lock these in the VAB and then land it and then unlock them. That worked for me. You can't relock them though once they're active, or at least on this one you can't, because of course they're vibrating all the time. Obviously the vibrating wheels is a bit weird, but it's still got enough grip to move. And one of the main limitations here, which I'm just going to demonstrate, is it does not like parallax rocks. Because I'm a bit stuck on this one. I think that's because the hitboxes are very sharp on a lot of these rocks here. It does work on some smaller rocks and also some sort of more ramp-shaped rocks, but you will find that a lot of rocks are just difficult to drive over. I think this one should be okay here, potentially. Let's find out. So even small ones like that can be trouble. I find the faster you're driving, the more willing it is to go over these rocks, but again, parallax has very sharp hitboxes, I believe. See, that one works. It's really small ones, or like really flat ramp shaped ones that are going to work. Of course, reversing onto a rock as well here causes a few problems. One of my recommendations to avoid the rear bar here flipping over completely is to limit its rotation. So I've got a 45-degree limit either way, so if I do reverse into something and it flips the back wheels over, it's not going to go all the way around, and I can sort of just readjust it by driving forwards or backwards to realign the wheels to the ground again. You can see it still drives over some like that, but again, it's one of the limitations, unfortunately. I'm here in the VAB just to show you how it is built in here, and you can see the tree of parts so you know what's connected to what. So this is the core here, the Rovemate body. The suspension for the wheels is all connected to this rotation piece here. So I basically put this onto the body of the Rover, connected all the wheels to that and all the bars here and all the rotation servos that I need down there, namely that one. I also connected the bar moving up and the rotation servo here to it. So this is all one piece. And then for the rest of the differential, I started up here with the rotation servo in the middle. Then I built the bar out, added all the joints that I needed to make it function, and then I used a strut here. If I take that off, you can actually see they're two separate pieces, but I used a strut there to connect it up so that they're mechanically linked and all works well. So if you are building one of these, that's the sort of approach I used. I did it in two parts. Start with the wheels here by connecting a rotation servo here and building out from it, and then finish the differential up here by starting with the rotation servo here and then using a strut there to connect the two halves together, and it's ready to go pretty much. With the wheels, I have a few recommendations. Damper strength up and spring strength at 0.5 seems to work well for me. It may vary depending on the wheels you decide to use, but I've used the ruggedized vehicular wheels, so yeah. I'd also recommend turning off steering for the middle wheel, keep steering on the front and rear wheels, turn traction control all the way up as well, and then I have brakes at 50% on the front and rear wheels, and brakes at 15% on the middle, and that basically that's the amount of braking that I like. It also means I can basically use the brake as a gear, so when I have brakes on I can drive the Rover more slowly, and when I turn the brakes off I can accelerate to higher speeds as well. So just find that balance or whatever you like. Apart from that, slap some science equipment on it, try and get it fairly balanced. My Rover does tip back slightly because it's not completely in the middle there, you can see. So if you want it to be perfectly flat, all you'd have to do is move your Rocker-Bogie system this way or this way depending on it. You just need to move it so that the central bar here is along the middle of the centre of mass, or you can just do what I did and add some holding tanks here and fill it up with ore to bring the centre of mass slightly forwards. I don't mind it being slightly tipped, but if you don't like it, then that's the way to adjust that. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully you learned something, because I think this system is pretty cool. Let me know if you end up building one. Maybe share some screenshots in my Discord server, which is linked down below. And hopefully this was useful to you. Cheers, guys.